A very good morning to you all. Welcome to Issues at Hand. I'm Robert Muhumuza, and with me in studios is Miss Gloria Asingwire, the Senior Investments Officer from the Uganda Development Corporation, and we're going to discuss matters Uganda's industrial growth, and she'll be telling us how the UDC is boosting this sector. Welcome to the show, madam.
Thank you very much.
So you can kindly say hi to the viewers and then we proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers. My name is Gloria Asingwire. I work for the Uganda Development Corporation as a senior investment officer appraiser. Good to be here.
Oh, well, madam, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. For our listeners who are out there and they don't know about Uganda Development Corporation, what do you have to tell them about the corporation and why was it established?
Well, Uganda Development Corporation, mostly known as UDC, was re-established in 2016, and majorly to establish sustainable investment on behalf of government, and also principally to drive economic development. Yeah.
So what exactly are there, like particular things this corporation does?
Yeah, most definitely, yes. So when I talk about sustainable investment, I'm talking about things to do with national development. So Uganda Development Corporation has key, or what we would call priority sectors, that it interests itself in, but because that's some of also the nation's priorities. So one of them is the service industry. It could be vaccine manufacturing, glove manufacturing. It could be health and hotels. Anything that triggers tourism. But we also have agro-manufacturing. Uganda being an agro-based country, it comes obvious that we are engaged in agro-processing or adding value to agricultural commodities. And these range from cotton, we have coffee. Most recent, you might be aware that Uganda now almost surpasses Ethiopia in exportation of coffee. Yeah. But we don't want to stop at exportation of coffee. We want also add value internally so that our people, our farmers, are able to earn an extra dollar on their produce. So we have cassava, and this the most one of the establishments that we have is manufacturing or processing of cassava into ethanol for cooking or even fuel blending. So this further contributes to environmental sustainability, in the fact that people move away from using charcoal to actually using ethanol for cooking, clean energy. So you can see we care about the environment as well. So we have cotton. We're engaged in two establishments, one for making cotton wool and another for making clothes. I'm sure you might not be aware that we make very nice cotton, 100% export quality within the country, and that establishment is called Fine Spinners Uganda Limited. It makes one of the most amazing clothes. So I would want to interest viewers not to just only import but also support our local establishment.
Oh, well then, thank you for that overview. I wanted to, before you leave the coffee and cassava, I wanted to ask, how really do you invest? Do you invest in the farmers? Like, how best do you do that?
Well,
now talking about coffee, we are now number one, which is commendable. So will we maintain that number?
Yeah, yes, why not? I think government is still, committed, so most definitely we shall. But back to your question, it's a good question. That how do we invest?
Yeah.
And we invest in several modes of frameworks. One of them being that we could invest as sole investors, where we set up a new company and with an interest to pursue one of those priority sectors I've mentioned earlier. Or we could actually partner with the private sector, and this could be private companies, private limited companies. For instance, you have cases where an individual has established a company, and then the idea fits well with us. So we could partner with them, or we could also partner with not only private sector but also government, or it could be any other public establishment. It could also be an international organization that has an interest to drive a strategic investment that aligns well with national development frameworks. Yes.
All right, thank you so much for that. Are there particular investments you've worked on that you can tell us about?
Well, yeah, I'm excited to talk about them because they're quite a number. So far, we have about 19 establishments across the three sectors. That's agro-manufacturing, service industry, but also infrastructure. So if I could just mention some that we have in agro-manufacturing, in cotton, we have partnered or invested in Mutuma Commercial Agencies. It does manufacture premium cotton wool that we use in hospitals, majored in hospitals, but it has other uses. We have also invested in fine spinners, Uganda Limited. It does manufacture or process or produce very good quality clothes. And just to mention that I am glad that in terms of the effect it has on importation, it's quite commendable that we can be able, a farmer in Lira could grow their cotton or in Kasese and be sure that this is going to be spun and then woven and then put into a good cloth that they could eventually be able to wear. And along that line, there's a lot of impact. You find a farmer gets value for his crop or her crop, but then you have workers. I mean, these people, for example, this one company employs about, above 600 workers, and you know what that has on the economy. These workers are eating food, these workers are paying tax, and it's incredible.
And they're employed as well.
Yeah. But on that as well, we still on agro-manufacturing, we have interested ourselves in cassava. We have Bokona Agro-Processing Services, Agro-Processing Limited, based in Noya District.
Okay.
It turns cassava into fuel for cooking. Not fuel we put in cars, but also it can be used, it could be processed to a certain level that we actually can blend it with fuel in terms of trying to still contribute to the environment. Yeah. So and it's doing quite well. That I'll give my example of myself that I have moved away from charcoal because I'm able to use this kind of fuel. It's good. It's an equivalent of gas. Yeah. Again, in agro-manufacturing, we are in coffee. We have established a coffee process. We've partnered with private sector in Budadili. So we are doing coffee processing in Budadili as well. Again, we don't want our raw material to just be exported as raw, without an extra dollar on it. So if we have our green beans and we add a little bit of value, or huge value, then it's us who benefit. When I move to services, we have hosted NAM, non-aligned movement that happened in January of 2024, and that was hosted by Speak, a resort
hotel,
convention center, SRCC,
yeah.
And you can imagine what that does for the country, that we are able to host these international meetings and conferences. It's not only about hosting in terms of maybe just break it down, is when people come here, they're eating food. That value goes to the farm again. If people come here, our youth are getting employed. The people who are working in the hotel, they are actually almost 100% Ugandan, and there's about 500 people. Also to mention, within still the service industry, we 100% own Kampala Serena Hotel.
Oh.
Yes, so you can imagine that
That's
landmark.
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's quite interesting. We are also, and Serena has gone, because Serena, the fact that we 100% own it, it has expanded its operations into Igongo culture, hotel in Barra. Again, in service industry, specifically in health, we have invested in East African medical vitals. It's good to experience that we don't import a lot of gloves, that our hospitals, our government hospitals and the private hospitals can actually use our locally made gloves, and that the impact is also huge. We are saving about $10 million annually by just one establishment like that. Again, in service sector, we have invested in Sangavet Limited. Maybe just to give you a little background, I come from a farming community with cows and all. So over the years, we've had challenges with ticks, with but now we have a local solution, in that we have our own industrialists and entrepreneurs with good ideas, who have researched and are doing good things. So one of them is Sangavet, that we are doing a curry site, and veterinary medicine. Then again, in service industry, we are in Kalangala infrastructure services. What that means, we really do offer transport. Previously, it was a huge problem. Kalangala is an island, so movement of goods and people across was difficult. So we did invest in Kalangala infrastructure services. So it provides affordable transportation through the ferry system, but also water and electricity. So, and those are very basic, facilities or needs that we need. Maybe to also further mention that besides, the health sector, the agro-manufacturing, we're into infrastructure development. We've, over the years, I think there's been, I would call it outflow of taxpayers' money to foreign companies, and majorly because our local capacity wasn't yet there, was not built. So we've had government efforts, where Uganda Development Corporation is actually championing, that we have invested in Abubeka Technical Services. And if you can imagine that if we are actually very intentional, is what these local industrialists or companies can do. I'll give an example that a Baker Technical Services has actually done some of these roads that we see in Kampala. But the most recent, I think it's embarking on 142 kilometer roads, the Chiboga, Busunju Chiboga. Then we have about 42 kilometers from, I think, Semuto to Kapeka. Yeah, so you can imagine, you just see those kilometers, but behind the kilometers, there's a lot of effect, the positive one, in the sense that this money that would rather have gone out is actually being retained within a country. But also further to that is that we have our youth actually being employed. The people on the roads, when you see most times, it's actually the youth. So having them engaging in productive activities is it's quite commendable.
Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to take you back on the services. So you talked about the acaricides and stuff. Are they affordable, like on the market by a common Ugandan?
Yes. Because for you, by the fact, by the time you reach at that level, you've actually gone through the numbers, in the sense that, is it actually financially, viable? Is it going to be affordable to our customers or our clients? So if we're talking about farmers in the rural area of Isingiro, Mbara, Kazo, and you are looking at giving them a good quality product, but also that is affordable. So they are all over the country, across the country, and our farmers are using them.
So basing on your statements, you seem to be 100% on buy Uganda, build Uganda.
Most definitely. Who wouldn't?
Okay, so my next question to you is, are there criteria you follow to or before you invest in the sectors you've mentioned?
Yes, there must be a benchmark. Okay, so I am happy to talk about the criteria for our viewers. This is sort of like a checklist, simple. Would want to understand, if you walked to UDC with your proposal, with your concept, does this actually create jobs? And we're not only saying that direct jobs, but also indirect jobs, in the sense that I mean that while I've talked about fine spinners employing about that number of people, 600, there's a farmer that is actually employed indirectly by the fact that they are assured that their cotton is going to be the offtake is there. So we want to be sure that your project, your establishment, your enterprise actually creates jobs. Another one, that's one. Two is we want to promote the entrepreneurial spirit of Ugandans. Ugandans are very innovative and creative, so we want to know that they are actually, your idea or your establishment is innovative, is looking through the future, is going to change the landscape, is providing solutions as well. But also further to that, the third one is, how are you enhancing our trade balance position? And this, I mean, really is we want to reduce on our importation and increase on our exportation, so that we are a bit, we have more dollars coming, or pounds or yens in our country through exportation of commodities or services, rather than us relying or heavily relying on importation.
Last time I was browsing through social media, I came up a post and someone was like, most of the products or the commodities we have right now in the markets out there are all imported.
And that's the story. Reduction in importation is a story we want to contribute to, because why would we import?
So
I mean,
my
why-
other question was, are our farmers not doing enough? Because you can't tell me we import. They told me beans, even those basic ones. So maybe I feel like you need to boost more on our farmers. I don't know how you will plan to do that.
And yes, through industrial development.
Yeah.
And government, through other agencies like Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Water. It's an area I think they're also, trying to tie the knots in terms of increasing production and productivity. Yeah. So and once the production and productivity is actually farmed up, then it contributes. One of the criteria I didn't mention is utilization of raw material. For us to support you and establish, a factory or, invest with you or in your company or in your idea, we want to also know that there's sufficient raw material that you're going to utilize, because we want your operations to be sustainable in the long run. So what that means, what you've said, that the production and productivity going down. I think it's an issue that has been picked up by Ministry of Agriculture and Water because of the effect on climate change. So water maybe would come in for irrigation, agriculture, and other services.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gloria. The discussion will continue shortly after the commercial break.
Issues at hand. This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. Issues at hand.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. We are still continuing with the discussion, and it's about Uganda's industrial growth. And with me is Miss Gloria Asingwire, the Senior Investments officer from Uganda Development Corporation. Before we went for the break, you are still giving us an overview and talking about how you select the investment. So could you kindly take us through the processes?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
So away from the criteria that I really talked about, that's utilization of raw material, you having evidencing that you're actually going to create jobs, that's both direct and indirect jobs. We also look at enhancing our trade balance position by we want to understand you're actually going to have export your products or reduce on the importation of what we import. By if we for example support you, then there should be some evidencing that you're actually going to reduce the so back to the process. We invest in both new projects, commonly known as greenfield, but also brownfield. Brownfield in the sense that this could be an existing facility, it could be an existing enterprise, or this is something that has already been tested. So and the processes don't differ a lot, but there's some distinction. So if you have a green project, a new idea that you really think I think this is a very nice idea. So when you approach us, there are processes, internal processes. One of them is called preliminary review analysis. We look at your concept, your proposal, and then we weigh it against the criteria. If it actually fits well within the criteria and the Uganda Development Corporation strategic plan, but also the National Development Framework, then we proceed to the next level, where we want to understand actually, did you fully understand this idea? Are you aware of the technical requirements, the commercial requirements? For example, is there a market, enough adequate market that is going to support your product or your service actually to make financial sense? Have you looked at the technology and the technical requirements? It could be scale, it could be location, it could be land. Have you looked at the environmental concerns? Have you looked at the contribution socially? And this, in a nutshell, is called a feasibility study. Yeah. So you want to see how feasible is your idea, or something you want to establish. And then once we are past that, you've actually proven you've done that, and we've cross-checked. Now we want to understand you, and in that case we do a due diligence on you, and we want to see your character, your reputation, your ability to contribute financially as well. And once we are past that, then we go into approval processes. But then we have another I've talked about brownfield, the existing ones. Now the route is different for that. Is when you come in with your proposal, then we actually do due diligence.
Greenfields are those which are fresh.
Very fresh. Yeah.
Then brownfields.
Brownfields are already existing, and these are ideas that are really being tested. This is a company that is already established, doing something, and it doesn't matter. It could be actually about product expansion or operations expansion. In this case, it could be coming to look for capital investment, buy more equipment, buy machinery. It could be, and also maybe some working capital as well, to expand the operations. So that's more of a brownfield. So it's already established, it's running, but maybe you want to expand, maybe it wants to do better, or it wants to improve its operations. So that's a brownfield. So that has just a little bit of tweak in terms of the process that we follow with between greenfield and brownfield. So for brownfield is when you bring in your proposal concept, we actually want to do due diligence on the operations of the business, but also on you. So you find us asking you for still we shall do preliminary review analysis, and we weigh you against the criteria that I talked about.
Yeah.
Does your company or industry or factory utilize local raw material, and if yes, are they sustainable in the sense that are they be able to sustain the business operation? Two, if how is your financial landscape like your past, so that we see how you know, are you compliant with the statutory obligations? Are you paying in NSSF? Are you paying URA? Yeah, are you paying taxes? So then we also look at appraise in terms of, we want to see also your idea, is it feasible again? So we do an investment appraisal. So past that, then we do evaluation in the sense, and the evaluation is really determinant on how we have done due diligence and understood your operations, your company, and yourself. So, and we might do valuation because we're going to invest in that company X. So we want to know your stake, because initially, as at UDC, maybe one thing I should emphasize is we invest by way of equity participation. So this, I mean that we take stake within your company. So that means, so just take you back on the processes.
So before investing, you must take stake in the company?
No. Let me just clarify on that.
Okay.
Is we invest by taking a stake in your company. What we call equity ownership. So we become part owners of your company. So the stake could be above 50%. So that means we are majority stake, we are stakeholders, and that would actually mean that you are going to be our subsidiary. But if our stake is actually lower than 50%, then we are you are our associate company. Yeah, we have stake. So going to back, so valuation is determinant on how we have actually done due diligence and understood, and that would inform us whether we do valuation or not. Because if you're going to take stake within your company, then it means that we must know how much you're worth. Yeah. So if you're, we want to know. If I put it in kilos, but if you're going to deploy other tools like joint ventures, then or special purpose companies or vehicles, then in the sense it means UDC and company X, we are contributing to special project, or so we're going to create a company for it. So therefore, everyone brings their contribution to that company. So that might not necessitate valuation of your company. So once we are comfortable with that, and we've gone to our board, maybe just to also emphasize that we are overseen by a very competent board of directors. So in terms of approval processes for investments, ultimately it's done by the board. So once the board approves the project, then we communicate to who we call the promoters, or the people that are actually pursuing to partner with us, and we go through negotiations and engagements, and we close the transaction, what we call deal. So the deal process, sort of, we close the deal.
So when the company passes the criteria, like the support you give greenfields and brownfields, is it different?
Maybe I wouldn't say the process is just differ a little, as I previously explained. But in terms of support, I'll give you a live example that company X could come to DC wanting to, and this is the case of a greenfield, wanting to wanting $10 million, of which maybe $8 million is actually going to sourcing of equipment and machinery, civil works, and the like. So these are capital items, but it could also be looking up beyond that. Maybe it's looking for working capital. So that's X as a greenfield. Now, if we invest and we find actually we've done due diligence, we have seen your feasibility study, and then we assess your ask, your financial ask, the 10 million US dollars. Is it adequate? Or maybe it's actually too much. So what happens after that is then we could say, by the way, I don't think you need a bigger warehouse. From how we see your operation, you actually don't need that big of a warehouse. So therefore, we are going to remove some of the money. Yeah? That maybe if 1 million US dollars was going into civil works and warehouse, then we shall actually differ from the initial ask. And then if we conclude on the deal, and then we have negotiated and agreed and actually see that your actual need could be 8 or 7 million US dollars, then we shall see, by the way we've accessed this company, if we take stake, if this company actually has potential and ability to finance, to be able to service like a shareholder loan. So maybe let's deploy a quantum of this 8 million US dollars in equity, but also we could also deploy other options. Could be preference shares where we have preferential rights, and the shareholder loan, or it could be actually a lease. But what should stand out that we must take part ownership, because that's our primary investment mode. So the rest would lie around the main.
So do you prioritize, are there like certain companies that you're more interested in investing than others, or for you any company would work provided they pass the criteria that you said?
I don't think in terms of specificity we are looking at, we're interested in company X. Again, to take you back, is we want to drive sustainable investment for this country. So, and if we have a national development framework, like for example national development for driving an agenda, in maybe agro-manufacturing, maybe in coffee or whatever it is, or we have actually an infrastructure need that requires us supporting local content for our local companies to do maybe roads. So if we get a company Y that is actually pursuing enhancing its local capacity to be able to participate in infrastructure development, then we assess it and see, by the way, do we have a deal here? Yeah? And if we have a deal, then we have a deal for the government as well. We have a deal for the nation, because the interest at the end of the day, we are looking at industrial and economic development for social economic transformation.
Well, thank you so much for that. So from this point, I will take it to like your future prospects. Do you share briefly about that? Like, do you have certain set goals by a certain year, and what's the plan you have for our country in as far as boosting Uganda's industrial growth is concerned?
Okay, thank you. We see ourselves, most obviously we are future looking. We see ourselves stimulating an industrial hub where Uganda is actually looked at advances in manufacturing, because if you look at all nations that have grown economically, they have had to put in effort in industrial revolution. So we want to revolutionalize industrialization. We want Uganda to be known that we are actually an industrial, hub for so many commodities that we produce locally, for these other services that we have been importing, or the commodities that we've been importing. So yes, most definitely we are championing that agenda, being driving the industrial revolution of this country.
So another one, you talked about the green fields and brown fields. Is there any other field?
There's no red field. There's no red field. There's no blue field.
Okay.
But there's a green field and a brown field.
Okay, only those two.
And just for purposes of our viewers, green fields. These are new ideas. These are new establishments, and they are green. Green in the sense of,
amateur.
Amateur. Yeah, we are just starting. Then brown. These are establishments or companies or enterprises that actually been existent. The ideas have been proven. Maybe they are looking at like expansion, product expansion, or operations expansion as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. At least I'm sure our listeners know about green fields and brown fields.
And they also know about UDC.
About UDC as well. Yeah, thank you so much, Mrs. Gloria Asingwire, the Senior Investments Officer at UDC. So, any parting shots for our listeners and our viewers?
Thank you, listeners and viewers. I would like to call upon you to come and join hands with us and in industrializing this nation. And when we do industrialize, you can imagine what can happen. Our youth will get jobs, our taxes will increase, our infrastructure will be made. So please reach out to us on our social media handles, on X, on Instagram, and also on our website. Reach out to us, submit your proposals and your ideas, and we have them looked at. Thank you.
So on socials, you Uganda Development Corporation?
Yes, UDC.
Throughout?
UDC. Yeah,
all right,
UDC
so
throughout.
they know where to find you. Thank you so much for watching Issues at Hand. That's all we had for you this morning. Have yourself a great day.
Issues at Hand